It is Wildcat on Wildcat again against the Purple Wildcat team. We got the Wildcat expert Justin Spears on the show today. We're live in 30 seconds. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome on into the AZ Wildcats podcast. I'm your host, Damon Fairall. That is my guy, Kevin Thomas, and we are live, not from PHNX HQ3, from our own homes. And we are thrilled to be talking about the Arizona Wildcats, talking about their football game that they have just a mere matter of hours away now until Arizona versus K-State in Tucson, of course. Huge game for the Wildcats of both schools, really, of Manhattan and of Tucson, but in particular, big game from our perspective, from Arizona Wildcats perspective. To hear more about that perspective, we're bringing on our guy Justin Spears, who of course is the expert on Arizona football, and we're thrilled to be joined by Justin yet again here on a fine Thursday. How we doing, Justin?
Doing great, man. You guys are show offs. You guys are like, you know what? We're gonna do the show from our own home. We're going to show Justin that our ceiling is in one piece. And you guys just had to rub it in, huh? Okay.
Justin, right. You're speaking a little too soon, because I actually am in my den right now downstairs in my I live in like a three-story townhome, and above my room there is currently construction going on in my roommate's bathroom that has completely fallen apart. So you may or may not hear some construction noises going on in the middle of the show from my audio. I'll try to mute, but I think you spoke a little bit too soon there. The walls are caving in on me as I speak.
Okay. Well, and for those that don't know about the situation, man, my ceiling collapsed last night at Casa de Spears. So I've been dealing with that all day long, but I couldn't miss this, man. I couldn't miss talking about the Arizona Wildcats with my guys, Kevin Thomas and Damon Fairall. So I'm super excited to be here with you guys. Super excited for Friday night's game, man. We got Friday Night Lights in Tucson, Arizona. Arizona versus Kansas State. Let's see if the Wildcats from Tucson can avenge their loss from last season, which ended that 9-game losing streak. But this game is very interesting. There's a lot of very interesting layers that I'm very excited to watch Friday night.
Yeah, certainly. I think, it's such a pivotal matchup when you think about, I've been saying, I think it's like a real ceiling finder kind of, if you will, for this team. Like, I think if Arizona loses this game, the sky is not falling. Yeah, that's ironic considering what we're talking about right now. We could really use a ceiling finder right about now, but I think the situation is like, the season's not over if you lose to Kansas State. Maybe they figure some things out. I still think you can make a bowl game, go 6-6, but I don't think that you can have that that 8-4, 9-3 maybe season that is now in the back, I think, of all Arizona fans' minds right now through 2 weeks. And so I think that this game is pivotal when it comes to the roadmap of trying to be a team that is truly a contender in the Big 12.
As Kenny Loggins once said, this is it, man. This is it. This is the game for Arizona. This is the big test. Now the season gets started for the Arizona Wildcats. And they took care of business in the first 2 games, and they look good while doing it. Danny Gonzalez pointed this out. I find it a very interesting statistic. Arizona, they're tied for first in college football in turnover margins this season. And turnovers or takeaways was a thing that Arizona didn't really thrive on last year. I mean, last year, they had 16 takeaways over the entire season, and now they are well on their way to beating that mark. And they've been getting to the quarterback. They've been applying a bunch of pressure, and the defense just looks much different than it did a year ago. And what's crazy is, you look at some of the the faces on Arizona's defense. And you kind of see it there in that graphic. Jacob Manu, I know that he was only there for really half a season before suffering that injury, but they also had guys like Takario Davis and a lot of other important names. Gunnar Maldonado, again, who only really played half a season, but he was still a part of that defense. Yet the defense this year, I think, has been more productive. And I think it's the Danny Gonzalez effect. I think it's Danny Gonzalez getting more out of less. And this is something that he did at ASU. This is something that he did at San Diego State and his other places, is that, you don't need, and he's said it many times, you don't need to have the most talent. You just need to have enough. And Danny Gonzalez feels like this Arizona team has enough talent on the defensive side of the ball. And they're going to get really strange when it comes to certain formations, right? I mean, like, you could see, the picture pre-snap, and you see a bunch of guys on the line of scrimmage. It could be defensive backs, it could be linebackers, it could be defensive tackles standing up. And then next thing you know, it's not what you see post-snap. The picture is completely different. So the defense is very unpredictable for Arizona under Danny Gonzalez, albeit you played against an injured Micah Alejado, the quarterback for Hawaii, who was pretty much like the do-everything player for the Rainbow Warriors. And then you played against a Weber State team that, from top to bottom, outside of their quarterback, Jackson Gilkey, is just a really bad team. But they haven't allowed a touchdown. They lead college football in turnover margin. Offense, game 1 to game 2. Game 1 was more of a run-centric type of performance. In game 2, you saw Noah Fafita throw for 5 touchdowns and no interceptions, and the passing attack looked definitely more crisp than the first game. So I think that this Arizona team, through 2 games, they've looked the part of a team that is much improved compared to last season. But now we're going to see the real test. We're going to see a test against a team in Kansas State that, yes, they're 1-2, but I mean, now their backs are in the corner and they're kind of, fighting to get their season back on track here. So this Kansas State team, they're going to give Arizona a really good shot. Now it's up to the Wildcats from Tucson to take those punches, counter them, and let's see if they can turn it into a win. I feel really good about this game for Arizona, but there are a lot of things that need to go right for the Wildcats. And the one thing that I'm looking at is pass protection. The offensive line, now it's complete, right? Rhino Tapatotai, which I find interesting that his initials are RT, and now he's going to be starting at right tackle. And, the offensive line, has looked kind of hot and cold this year. Good job running the football in game 1, but in game 2, they didn't really do a good job of running the ball. And then they also have given up more pressures than I would like to see. Rhino Tapatotai gave up 4 pressures in that game against Weber State, which is nearly half of them. And, that could be concerning for Arizona fans. Like, this guy might be the best offensive lineman that Arizona has. How is he giving up 4 quarterback pressures against Weber State? I think he was just getting his feet wet. And that's why you put Rhino out there against Weber State rather than Kansas State, because Kansas State, they have a really good defensive line. They lead the Big 12 in sacks. They have a really good defensive front. They are a really good unit up front, and they are so sound. So you don't want to just throw out Rhino nearly a year later. Hey, Rhino, here's your first game. Go up against arguably or one of the top defensive lines in the Big 12. You get him those reps against Weber State. You get him accustomed to the offense with Seth Dagey. And Seth Dagey even said he's still getting back into game shape. When they would go tempo, the offensive line would be so far afield and Rhino's trailing them. Like, I'm coming, guys, wait up. And the game reps and the game shape, that's going to come with Rhino. But I know that the Weber State performance could be looked at as a red flag. He also had a holding penalty as well. But this is also the same guy that didn't give up any pressures or any sacks against Utah last year. And with, was it Van Fillinger and Brendan O'Toole, like really good defensive ends, to go up against those guys and not allow that, that says a lot about Rhino. So he's a really good offensive tackle. I think you just got to allow him to really settle into his role at right tackle. But offensive line was the big question going into the season. Now going up against arguably the best defensive line in the Big 12, we're really going to see where that unit is at. And I think as a team, this is where we're really going to see where Arizona is at as well.
But I also, we talk about the K-State defense, and their front seven are quite good. You also have Romaine, a huge returner there. He in the linebacker core for them. He has been incredible, but their secondary has been a bit questionable at times this season. And I think that that's an area that Arizona can really take advantage of them in that second and third level of their defense. I was talking to Damon about this on our last show, but when I was watching the K-State film, like you had veteran returners taking incorrect routes to the ball, incorrect reads on what play was even happening on the other side of the ball as well. Like I know that the front seven is quite good, but I do think that Arizona can take the top off the K-State secondary if they can have any semblance of a run game. And like you said, Justin, it's going to be tough for this Arizona offensive line, who has a ton of new faces, to come in and compete with a big, rough, tough Big 12 defensive line like K-State's. But their defensive line might be really good, but their defense is not impenetrable. And so I also like this matchup for the Arizona Wildcats. And I think that you mentioned this being a huge game now for K-State, and coming into the year, it was not, probably circled on their calendar as a game that their fans would really be paying too much attention to outside of, the regular Friday huge Fox matchup. I'm seeing K-State fans say this is a must win now. And I think that, to your point, Justin, and to the point that Damon's been making all week, like, you are going to get K-State's best shot. And I'm still, it's Thursday afternoon before the Friday game, and I still don't really know what K-State's best shot is going to look like this season. But I think you guys are right. They're going to give you their best shot, and it's really about how good is Arizona. And if they can take whatever K-State's best shot is, I think that this Arizona team is going to go just as far as maybe Damon and I thought on this program, and probably even a lot farther than most fans at home thought coming into this season. So it's a huge game for both programs. I think there are a ton of really interesting Big 12 matchups this weekend, but I would wager that this matchup between Arizona and K-State, one of the more consequential ones on the docket. So yeah, I'm all over this matchup. I think it's going to be a fun one. And I think Arizona offensively could really show some versatility.
It feels like this is more of a pressure game for K-State than Arizona.
Yeah.
Because, if Kansas State starts 1-3, oh boy, they got problems in Manhattan, because that's a school we looked at as one of the upper tier schools in the Big 12, right? And Avery Johnson viewed as this great quarterback, but what they're doing with him is just, it just reminds me of Noel Mazzoni and Khalil Tate.
It stinks.
It stinks. It is. As a matter of fact, I was looking at his rushing numbers for Mr. Avery Johnson. And Avery Johnson is on pace to pretty much cut his rushing yards in half compared to last year. And that is not a good recipe for success, because that's his bread and butter. Like, as much as Avery Johnson, he can make some good throws when he's on the run. You could see the flashes of him being that high-level quarterback. But the thing that makes Avery Johnson such a great player is his ability to get out on the run. And we saw him and that Kansas State offense zone read the hell out of Arizona last year. And Arizona just could not stop it, because the defensive ends would go so far upfield that Avery Johnson would just slip right under him and break out for a long run. And we kind of saw Arizona get in some trouble last week. Jackson Gilkey broke out for a decent run. And Danny Gonzalez said that kind of run with Avery Johnson, that's going to go from 16 to 60. So Arizona has to be really disciplined on the edge. And we don't know what's going to happen with Trey Smith. They said he's a game time decision, but I probably bet on him not playing, just because, with the bye week coming up as well, give him some time to rest and get ready for Iowa State. And we also don't know the severity of his injury. He could be out for a while. We just simply don't know. But, for those other guys outside of Trey Smith, they have to be able to really seal the edge and not allow Avery Johnson to slip away. And I also think that this is going to be a really big opportunity for Danny Gonzalez to flex his muscles as the defensive coordinator of Arizona and implement that 3-3-5 look. And I think that could also help out Arizona if they're without Trey Smith. because that other linebacker in that mix, I mean, those guys are essentially stand-up defensive ends, right? Riley Wilson, Chase Kennedy, both edge rushers that can make plays out in space. And I think that the defensive game plan for Arizona, and this is just my speculation, this is how I view it, just putting myself in Danny's shoes here, knowing what I know about K-State and the running ability of Avery Johnson, even though they haven't really displayed it yet. You could have a guy like Riley Wilson and a Chase Kennedy essentially play like the QB spiral and just make sure that Avery Johnson isn't getting out and making long runs. And I think that's going to be the biggest difference in this game for Arizona. There were a lot of exciting plays for Kansas State last year. That Dylan Edwards punt return for a touchdown that completely swung the momentum. They had so many other plays on offense that were just these chunk, exciting plays. And I think Arizona's going to limit that. They're going to say, like, Avery Johnson, you want to beat us? You're going to have to earn every single yard tonight. And I think Arizona's their defense, they're going to do that. They're going to corral Avery Johnson. And I think that the Wildcats, the Arizona Wildcats, will figure out a way to win this game. But you can't just let your guard down, because even though they haven't used Avery Johnson as a runner, this would be the game that they do it. And who knows, maybe they get Dylan Edwards back, and maybe this is the game where K-State's rushing attack comes back to life.
I wanted to ask you real quick, Justin, on the topic. Sorry, Damon, but this is something he kind of talked about, and it's been on my mind, and we talked about it on our most previous show. Like, when you watch K-State, Justin, do you think, and obviously it's, one hand washing the other, it's a little column A, a little column B, but if you had to pick which side has been more at fault for K-State's poor start, do you put it on coaching or do you put it on the talent that's been out there for K-State? Because I think this roster was touted as one of them, not only like highest preseason rated Big 12 teams, but one of the more talented ones, right? I think a lot of people loved this K-State roster coming into the year. Do you think that the talent has underwhelmed, or do you think the coaching has let the talent down?
I think the coaching has let the talent down. They're getting Mazzoni'd straight up. Like, that's just the best way to put it. Because, Noel Mazzoni came in and took this dual threat quarterback in Khalil Tate and was like, we're going to make him a pocket passer. And I also think that Khalil Tate was maybe reluctant to run then, because he was just kind of viewed as the athletic quarterback. So he's like, yeah, I'm in this system that's really going to show off my arm. But there needed to be a balance with a quarterback like a Khalil Tate. And then under Noel Mazzoni, there just was no balance. With a guy like Avery Johnson, there has to be balance and designed quarterback runs. And they're just not having that. And yes, Sam Alberts, maybe they are getting Babered this year. So
is it ever? I'm thinking about this. Is it ever good to become a verb? Has there ever been a person in history where it's like you want to be like Damon? You know what I mean?
Like, I was about to say, never go full Mazzoni. Never go full Mazzoni.
Never go full Mazzoni. You got to have some balance in there, man. Don't go full Mazzoni. Well, I mean, yeah, because if you're getting mossed, right, you're on the other end of someone high pointing a catch over you.
But you could also moss someone else.
Yeah.
So that might be the only one that we can think of.
Yeah, that's the only one that came off the top that I'm like, oh, that could be a positive one.
But yeah, no, like you were saying, I also, like, when I was looking at it, I feel like it's the coaching. They're not even using Avery Johnson's legs. I also think defensively, though, there is a little bit of a talent side of it where the coaches can only do but so much and the players have to execute it. But offensively, I think it's almost like two different stories on each side of the ball. I think defensively, it's almost the talent letting the coaching down. But I think offensively, like, Avery Johnson and his playmakers are not being put in the positions that they're going to be most successful in. So it's really interesting as to what K-State we're going to get.
Well, hold on. I want to add to that too. It's also a little bit of the players as well, especially on the defensive side of the ball, because we talked about that defensive front. They can get to the quarterback, no problem. But man, against Army last week in one of the weirdest games I have ever seen, they couldn't get off the field. Army was 6 for 7 on 4th down, and there were a lot of these 4th and short situations, and they just, death by 1,000 paper cuts, played the typical service academy route and just had the 3.5 yards and a cloud of dust. We literally saw that game plan in the second half. One of the most mind-blowing stats I will ever see in a football game. Did you know Kansas State only had the ball in the second half for 3 minutes and a second? 3 minutes and a second, man. That is just insane.
2 possessions.
2 possessions. They punted it away with like 11 something left in the third quarter, and then came back with like just over 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter. And Army, I mean, they kind of did what Hawaii tried to do against Arizona and just dominate time of possession, but it worked. It executed. And in Kansas State's defense, as much as you could talk about coaching and all that, those guys got to get off the field on third and fourth down, and they did not do that. So I think as far as like the offense goes, I'll probably put the blame more on the coaches. As far as the defense goes, I'll blame more of the players.
I was listening to Locked On Kansas State. Great work being done over there. And they were kind of talking about like the path to victory from a Kansas State perspective. And it definitely felt, to me at least, it was more of a, we have to have our defense carry us to victory type of vibe. I think that there's a lot less hope from a Kansas State fan's perspective right now that their offense is going to be able to figure it out from last week to this week. And I think that, like as Seth Dagey alluded to, and we played it on yesterday's show, it's really hard for the Arizona offensive coaches to watch any of the tape that has been put out by Kansas State's defense thus far, because they've played against huge sets at Iowa State, big sets against North Dakota, and triple option sets versus Army. And none of those are the way that Arizona football is playing offense right now. So it's a little bit of a tough tape to watch, but I think that the defensive coaching staff can take what Kansas State is trying to do offensively and say, well, it's not working because of this, and we're going to recreate that on Friday night. So I definitely think that their offense is still not going to have a very good night. I think that their defense is going to have to, potentially shut down Noah Fafita, and more importantly, in my opinion, which I think is more important for the whole season, is shutting down the run game, and that balance thus takes the ball out of Fafita's hands a little bit more, because last season in 2024. So yeah, that's kind of where I think that the path to victory is for a Kansas State perspective.
Well, in Kansas State, if you looked at that game last year, they outrushed Arizona by nearly 200 yards. So they just completely had their way in the ground game. And I think if Kansas State can replicate that by also taking away Arizona's run game and make them one-dimensional, then I think they'll be in pretty good shape. But, another thing too, Noah Fafita is really doing a good job of taking care of the football this time around. Last year, it seemed like even when he had good games, like in that game against New Mexico, when him and T-Mac put up video game numbers, he still had a turnover in that game. And so being able to take care of the football is something that's going to be so key in this game and for the rest of the season. And if you look at Noah Fafita, even in that first game where he didn't put up impressive numbers, right? His completion rate was the third worst of his career. Didn't turn over the football. So even in the inefficient, bad game by Noah Fafita standards, he didn't turn over the football, which was a problem in the early stages of last season. I mean, he tied the Big 12 in interceptions, for the most interceptions. And so that's a category that I think Noah Fafita is doing a really good job in. And I think it's the coaching of Seth Dagey. It's getting receivers in spots where Noah can find them. And the flow of the offense is just significantly better than it was a year ago.
And I think when we talk about turnovers and how that can play a part in this matchup between Arizona and Kansas State, this is a good team for Noah Fafita to continue that success against, right, Justin? Because, I don't know if you guys know how many turnovers K-State has forced this year, or rather, I should say how many interceptions. It's a goose egg.
0.
They have yet to force an interception out of anyone that they've played. And, we'll say it again 50 times before the end of the show. They played Army, a Dakota school, and Iowa State in Dublin, right, in a game that was super sloppy. And I'm surprised they didn't get an interception in that game. You know what I mean? Like, I think that this is a team that, and that's why I mentioned the secondary earlier, is like a part of their defense I think Arizona can take advantage of. If Arizona can have any semblance of a run game, I don't think Noah Fafita should have a problem keeping the ball safe. If you can force K-State to defend both the run and the pass and not sell out against one or the other, it helps Noah Fafita a whole lot. And I think that he is going to be able to keep the ball safe this Friday. I was going to say this weekend, but to start this weekend of college football, I think Noah Fafita is going to show you that he can keep the ball safe against the Big 12 side, because K-State, they can't pick anybody off. They haven't showed us that they can pick anybody off yet. So, yeah, I think that Noah Fafita should be able to keep the ball safe if Army's quarterback, their backup quarterback, I will say, even can keep the ball safe against K-State.
I feel like we're going to sound like sorry, Justin. I just feel like we're going to sound like a broken record when it comes to every single decent sized game this year being like, if Arizona runs the football effectively, I feel good about their chances of winning, because I just think that's going to be the key offensively almost every game this season. But go ahead, Justin.
Now, I was going to say, I feel like this is setting up for, because I love storylines, right? Shout out to my guy, Derek Montilla, who's a big WWE guy. We all love storylines. How juicy would it be if Gunnar Maldonado gets more playing time and picked off Noah Fafita in this game? No?
Keep it. I'm good on that, I think.
I think sometimes, WWE, they try to turn good guys or good girls into bad guys and bad girls. And I just think, sometimes you got to stay good. And people like Gunnar Maldonado in Tucson. I think he's still a face. I'll use that term in Tucson. He's not quite a heel. You know what I mean?
When it goes full heel and takes the ball over to where the turnover sword is. It's like, huh?
He takes the sword. Imagine, now this is WWE. Gunnar Maldonado intercepts Noah Fafita, runs over to the Arizona sideline, steals the turnover sword, punctures the ball, takes it back to Manhattan with him. And now next time you go to K-State, now it's like battle for the sword. You know what I mean? And you have like a whole thing that you can do. That's how you WWE-ify it. We've talked a little bit about the keys to winning this game for Arizona and K-State, but I think that we should talk more about that after this break here on the AZ Wildcats podcast, because I've compiled my keys, and we need to get the thoughts on those from Justin and Damon. So stick around. It's the AZ Wildcats podcast. Don't go anywhere. And I'm back. And I'm back like I never left, because I'm always catching a vibe with our friends over at Pure Edibles. Damon, Pure Edibles, they're the one-stop shop for all of your edible needs. And I'm not talking about just your everyday run-of-the-mill stuff. I'm talking about a full-fledged candy company that offers gummies, hard candies, caramels, Starburst-like kicks, and any kind of vibe that you want. Uplift, unwind, the whole 9 yards. And they're clearly listed on each individual tin so that you can know exactly what kind of vibe you're catching when you get a piece of Pure Edibles. And you're talking about a piece of Pure Edibles. They're easily ripped, shared, and dialed in so you know exactly how much you are getting. And you can also share with your friends if you're that kind of person. So check out Pure Edibles from one of the over 130 dispensaries that dispense them statewide. And oh yeah, they're an Arizona company, a Freedom State company, I will say.
Yeah, absolutely, Kevin. The Freedom State company, and no company is more Freedom State than Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Guys, Gila River Resorts and Casinos is an absolute staple of the Valley of Arizona in general. If you're looking for a staycation or maybe just a spot to, stay while you're coming in town to watch your favorite sporting events, favorite sports teams, do it at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. 4 locations: Wild Horse Pass, Lone Butte, V-Kiva, and Santan Mountain. Something all over the Valley for all folks to enjoy. And they, of course, have the over 4,500 slots and live table games. They have the low scale and upscale dining options, the concert venue, the pool with the cabanas, you name it, man. The largest sports book in the state of Arizona. They have it. It's so much fun. And it is just like having Vegas in your backyard without having to make that drive and without having those Vegas smells. So for an unprecedented level of entertainment and excitement, go to Gila River Resorts and Casinos. You do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playathgila.com for more details.
But yeah, I can really use, honestly, a trip to V-Kiva right about now. Maybe like an extended staycation. That would be chef's kiss.
That would be electric. I let me just say, Kevin, appreciate everybody for being here. Please drop a like on this video. Means the world to us that you guys would be here. We are in gear up for Arizona's game versus Kansas State. Some of the staples of this chat here. Jay, good to see you back, my guy. It has been a minute. Max, always here holding it strong. Alec, thank you for being here live. I know you're listening, not live, half the time. Mr. Tyler Warden, thank you, sir. Harvey, man, Jen Frenson, one of the greatest names in the chat, SpongeBob owed. Zabe, Alex Rab, Sam Alberts, Bees, even though he's an ASU guy, still showing support. Appreciate everybody for being here. Drop a like, subscribe to the channel. rate and review on your favorite podcast platform of choice. And we're hanging out with our guy Justin Spears on a Football Thursday here.
Shout out to my guys Tyler Ward and Alex Rabb, some of my favorite Arizona football fans on the interweb. Glad that they're able to stop by and listen to us.
Yeah, Alex Rabb,
Arizona, Kansas State.
I feel like Alex Rabb's always doing something cool on social media, honestly. Shout out to you, Alex Rabb. Yeah, doing good work. But talking about Arizona versus K-State, like Damon said, shout out to everybody in the chat. We love each and every one of you and appreciate you guys for tapping in with us today. I have compiled my keys to the game for Arizona versus K-State, and we're going to offer them up to the football oracles that are Justin and Damon and see what they think. So here we go. Key number 1, run defense and quarterback contain. We've talked about it, and I talked about it on yesterday's show. K-State is in the 120s nationally in, stuff rate and power in between the tackles, success rate on the runs. They cannot run between the tackles, and when they do, they get stuffed. I think Arizona needs to be strong at the point of attack, and they need to contain the run game for K-State, and that extends to the long locks of Avery Johnson, right? You have to make sure that his hair stays in the pocket. You know what I mean? And you cannot let him get out. Now, I know that they have not utilized him in that way this season, but they're bound to eventually. K-State fans are practically rioting for Avery Johnson to run the damn ball more. So that is my key number 1. Key number 2, I want to see Noah Fafita take the top off this defense. And I'm not talking about have the same kind of game that he had versus Weber State. Not at all. I would never expect him to do that against a team at the level of K-State and in the level of the Big 12. But I do think that it's going to be imperative to have the run game to open up the pass game. I've talked about it on this podcast already. In K-State's defense, that secondary is the bit that you want to take advantage of. Not the front 7, not Austin Romaine, who's an absolute dog. You want to go after that secondary. VJ Payne has been really bad to start this season. That is like the bell cow of the defense there. He has not been leading that back end like they thought that he would. So I think Noah Fafita needs to take the top off the defense at least a couple times a quarter just to keep him honest. And then it would open up the run game to help you win this game. Key number 3, no turnovers. I mentioned it earlier. K-State, they've been awful at forcing interceptions specifically this year. I believe they forced 3 fumbles. And if you go back and look at them, it's fortunate, I'll say. You know what I mean? And I think like K-State's defense has really struggled to not only force turnovers, but get off the field. 10 for 12 are their opponents on 4th down conversions this season. That is really bad. They allowed 9 4th down conversions throughout the entirety of last season. So I think not turning the ball over, keeping K-State's defense on the field where they've shown they can gas out. Those are my 3 keys to tomorrow night's game against K-State. What do we think, fellas?
Well, I also, to add on to that, definitely containing Avery Johnson is a very important key here. Just because even though they have not shown it yet this year, this would be the game that he goes off, right? Because Arizona has shown some vulnerability against mobile quarterbacks, not just, in the little glimpses of this year, but last year, like that was a huge Achilles heel for this team. So I think stopping the quarterback on the run is very key. And then I also think that penalties too, you cannot get flagged too many times in this game. And, we saw it last week against Weber State where Noah Fafita had 2 rushing touchdowns get nullified because of Arizona holding. And, he could have had 5 touchdown passes and 2 rushing touchdowns, but Arizona had to settle for field goals. Against a team like Kansas State, you can't settle for field goals, man. You have to be able to put the ball in the end zone. And so I think that the penalties, Arizona, they have the 2nd most penalties in the Big 12 this year. So you got to clean that up. And half of those penalties are holding penalties on the offensive line and wide receivers. So that's one area that I think they have to fix. And then it's very simple, man. You protect the most valuable asset on your team, and that is Noah Fafita. If you can give him a clean pocket, or if you can get him out on the run and have him roll out and not have to deal with pressure, and he can make plays either running with his legs or make throws with his legs, I think making sure that Kansas State keep as many white jerseys away from Noah Fafita as possible. And if you can do that, then Arizona is going to be just fine Friday night. But, we saw against Hawaii and then against Weber State, sometimes that pass protection, it got a little shaky at times. And Rhino Tapatotai, I'm looking at you, man. But again, like I said earlier, this was also the same guy that put up an absolute clinic last year against Utah when he's healthy. So maybe getting that game under his belt, maybe this is exactly what Rhino needed. But I think collectively, those 5 guys up front, they got to be able to protect Noah Fifita. So those are my keys to the game.
I think in the dominance that we saw from Arizona through its first 2 games against Hawaii and Weber State, like the one thing that you could push back on that was not dominant was the offensive line performance. And I think that was, kind of what we went into the year with as our biggest question mark position group. And not to say that they've been like debilitatingly bad, because they absolutely haven't, but clearly. But I do think that like they didn't exactly put up performances that were all that encouraging versus competition like Hawaii, like Weber State, where they're still having a handful of holding penalties, still a handful of big defensive plays that lead to TFLs. I just think that you saw too much of that. Now you're facing like your first legitimate competition as a defensive line group as well. And so I almost am like going into it being like, I somewhat expect Kansas State's defensive line to cause us some issues. And that's why I think the run game is just so damn important. Because if we can run the football effectively, they can't stack the box, or they'll have to start stacking the box a little bit more. And then Fifita will have more one-on-one matchups. And it's just, it was the crux of everything that went wrong with the Dino Babers offense last year, was how telegraphed everything was, and how teams just knew what you were trying to do with the football on third down. And that's pretty much throw the ball to T-Mac every single time. So this season, I just think that you need to keep teams guessing. I know that that's Seth Daigie's plan, and that's why he ran the system that he did at Marshall last year in the Sun Belt, like just trying to, kind of switch up the system, turn an air raid into running the football effectively. And I expect more of the same here. I do think Arizona has the advantage against Kansas State, but I as I've been saying all week, you're going to get Kansas State's best shot, and it's really going to be pretty interesting to see, how what that looks like, given we've seen what their worst shot looks like, and it's pretty awful.
I'm really curious though, offensively, Arizona, are they going to use a bunch of like RPOs? Are we going to see a lot of play action type stuff, so that way Arizona can keep Kansas State's defense honest, especially those guys up front? Because like you guys said, defensive backs in the secondary, they've been kind of shaky. So if you can, trick these guys, I think Arizona on offense will be just fine. But like I said, man, the penalties, those things that just kill drives, protecting Noah Fifita, if they can do both of those things, then I think the offense will be just fine. And then defense, one thing that's been really encouraging for me is they don't really seem to let play snowball. Like last year, it felt like once that Dylan Edwards punt hit, Arizona just wasn't right after that point. Like it was a close game, right? And then they punted away. Dylan Edwards takes it to the house, and then Kansas State is just picking on Owen Goss for the entire game. And it just seemed like Arizona just didn't really have anything exciting outside of Tetairoa McMillan making some impressive catches. And I think this year, I get it, they play teams like Weber State and Hawaii, but we've seen this defense mess up on some plays, and those same guys who would mess up would end up with the big interception like Gavin Hunter against Hawaii, or they would come up with a key stop or a key turnover. And that's just Danny Gonzalez's mindset. Like, you got to get population of the football, get 11 hats to the ball with bad humor, and keep them out of the freaking end zone. And so far in 2 games, they've done exactly that. There are some times, like if you look at like the Pro Football Focus stats, you could see the missed tackles, but Danny Gonzalez isn't like, oh yeah, I'm not really investing too much into individual missed tackles, because the thing is, if there's one missed tackle, cool. Well, there better be at least 2 or 3 guys right there to make the play. Now, if there are multiple missed tackles on a play, that's when you got some problems. But so far for Arizona, they've had some missed tackles here and there, but there's a lot of guys that are on cleanup duty that do a really good job of finishing the play.
Justin, I did want to ask you, you mentioned kind of the feeling around Trey Smith right now. you're saying that you don't exactly know, but you're leaning right towards Trey Smith probably not suiting up tomorrow night.
Yeah.
Dylan Edwards on the other side for Kansas State is also said to be kind of 50-50. I know Danny Gonzalez said he expects him to go. What are you hearing in regards to Kansas State's lead back and his ability to play tomorrow?
Yeah, same thing, 50-50, kind of a coin flip, game time decision type of thing. But, he got hurt in that game a few weeks ago against Iowa State. And, I mean, just following Arizona football, Arizona athletics for damn near my entire life, it just always seems like Arizona is the healer. They're always the ones that get the guys ready to go and healthy for some reason. So it wouldn't surprise me if we saw Dylan Edwards trot out onto the field. But then, you also have to think that, with bye weeks coming up here for Kansas State as well, do they just, figure out a way to get there and then have Dylan Edwards come back ready to go and healthy? I don't know. But yeah, I'm hearing that, yeah, it's a coin flip. It's 50-50, but it wouldn't surprise me if we saw him out there. But they do have, a decent running back in Joe Jackson, not the father of the Jackson 5. He's the starting running back for Kansas State right now, and pretty good running back from what I've seen. So even though they don't have Dylan Edwards, look out for Mr. Jackson.
Yeah, definitely.
I was envisioning
Joe Jackson for sure.
Yeah, I was envisioning an old man suiting up at running back for Kansas State there, Justin. But let me just say, I feel like, as far as the healing thing, yes, we do very much feel that way. I also feel like, Michael Alejado was, it was kind of up in the air whether or not he would play. And then we ended up seeing what that looked like, right? Like when he suited up against Arizona, he was clearly not 100%, and Arizona was able to take advantage of that. Is there an element of Kansas State maybe gets hurt by a Dylan Edwards playing because he just frankly is not up to it? So, I think that there's a potential for Dylan Edwards, definitely coming in and making a huge difference. Maybe he's not 100%, but is there any other injury updates or anything that we should be on the lookout for, Justin?
Yeah, Kedrick Reesano, running back, he missed last game with a lower leg injury. The boot that he was wearing on the sideline, it was not a full-on boot that was going up to his knee. It was just more like a shoe type of thing. So I don't know what his status is. I'm sure they would love to have a guy like Kedrick Reesano available, but even if he's not available, I was really encouraged by what I saw out of Wesley Yarborough. Now I know it's second half garbage time against Weber State, but man, 7 carries for 37 yards. The man looks really tough and he looked comfortable, right? This is the first time that he's playing college football and he came out there with a confidence. They were, kind of taking some cheap shots on Wesley. I remember there was one, kind of play towards out of bounds where I looked at it okay, that was kind of a late hit. But and Wesley just got up and went right to the huddle, didn't even think to trash talk or nothing. He was all about business in his first action. So, and he looks the part too. If you look at him standing next to Kedrick Reesano, very similar body types. And one has been playing college football for a few years and one is a true freshman. So even if we don't see Kedrick Reesano, I would expect there to be a lot of snaps for Wesley Yarborough. And, good news for him, it would only be his second game. So he'll have 2 more games left to play and he could still redshirt. But if Kedrick is unable to go, I'd expect Wesley Yarborough to have a more prominent role right behind Ismail Mahdi and Quincy Craig. As far as, other injuries, I'm trying to think off of the top of my head. I'm excited to see Riley Wilson come back. I know he played last week. And I think that now that he's got some first action at Arizona and looked good doing it, he had the second most tackles last week against Weber State. He's going to be a lot of fun to watch. But as far as the injuries go, I think outside of Trey Smith and Kedrick Reesano, I think the Arizona Wildcats are in pretty decent shape. Knock on wood.
And, real quick, before we move on from the injury side of things, we've talked a lot about Trey Smith potentially missing this game, likely maybe missing this game. If he were to miss this game, we're talking a lot about how the run game for K-State is going to mean everything for them. I don't. So part of me, if you've already mentioned it, I'm slipping my mind. But
no.
What is the effect you think if Trey Smith is not in this game on Arizona's rush defense, and who could possibly plug that hole for Arizona's front seven?
Yeah, I mean Trey Smith. That's a big loss if he's unable to go because we saw last week or 2 weeks ago against Hawaii, not only can he get to the quarterback and he's a really good pass rusher, but he can also drop back and make some plays in space. There was one time, I think it was like a screen or like a mini wheel route that they tried throwing to the running back, and Trey Smith chased down the running back and made that tackle before he got to the first down. And so, those kind of plays, you want to see that out of your sixth-year senior, a guy that's been playing college football now for a little while, or fifth-year senior, I think. So it's a big loss. It really is. He's a really good defensive end. He's one of the team captains for a reason. But I have been really encouraged by what I've seen out of Mr. Malachi Bailey, the transfer from Alcorn State, who put up insane numbers at Alcorn State. And, he was one of those FCS transfers that took him several months to get accustomed to playing at Arizona. But so far, between really the second half of training camp and then the start of the season, in my opinion, he's been one of Arizona's best defensive ends. He's almost kind of like that other starter at D end. And I think now with Trey Smith, being out of the picture potentially, right? We just don't know. I think that Malachi Bailey is really going to show some good stuff as more of a starter. And I'm also really curious to see, what's going to happen with guys like Edowa Akunde, the redshirt freshman from Texas, who's got a big old club on his hand. He's trying to overcome that injury as well. Dominic Lalesio, I think, has been really a rock solid player, like nothing super, super flashy, but also a guy that's not a liability out there on the field. So, they have some really good options at defensive end. They can also move some guys around too, like Chancellor Owens. They moved him to more like a 5 technique or 3 technique defensive tackle. He played defensive end at Northwestern State, and from what I've heard, he is Arizona's strongest defensive lineman. So they have some options, but as far as like the true replacement for Trey Smith, I look at Malachi Bailey to really be that difference maker.
What about another captain? And again, forgive me, Kevin style, if you already mentioned this, but in Traden Stukes, he didn't suit up last week, but it seemed like maybe last week he could have gone. It was more of a situation of like they trust Traden Stukes to not necessarily need to get his feet wet, maybe like a Rhino Tapa Totai. So I feel like, is Traden Stukes, like, is he all set to play on Friday night?
Yeah, please forgive me for brain farting Traden Stukes. It's a very significant injury. My ceiling's been on my bathroom floor since 12:45 this morning, so you guys got to give me a little bit of grace here. But Traden Stukes,
the ceiling is the floor, right? To steal Michael Jordan. That's what he said, right? That's what the GOAT said.
That's what MJ said. That's awesome. But as far as Stukes, yeah, he could have played last game. He could have also played against Hawaii, but they love what they see out of Gavin Hunter, and they love the progress that he's made at that slot corner spot. And, I think that, you might be able to see Traden Stukes play this week. But another thing to consider, and I know Arizona fans, they may not want to hear this because, why would you hold players out against a premier opponent like Kansas State? But, you've got that bye week on the other side, right? And, if you can just squeeze every last drop out of that recovery and get him to the Iowa State game, maybe that's the path for Arizona. And they want to be smart about this. And, they know that, Traden's a very valuable piece to the secondary, and they want to make sure that they're out here, they're out here playing chess, not checkers. And so I think making sure Traden is healthy and getting him to the Iowa State game, I think is key. Will he play against Kansas State this week? I don't know. But like Danny Gonzalez said, he could have played in the previous games against a big-time opponent like K-State. Why not get him out there to see what he could do?
Kevin, we got to go to our last and final break here. We'll finish breaking down the Kansas State-Arizona preview with Justin Spears, and we'll give you our 3 best bets in mine and Kevin's head-to-head over the weekend, plus get Justin's final score prediction here. But we'll do all that and more right after the break here on the AZ Wildcats pod.
It is ad break time, and I'm here to talk to friends over at Branded Bills. Now, Branded Bills, that is the best way to rep any brand that you love. And it's also the best way to elevate your brand. And wow, that was a sick reveal, Damon. Not going to lie to you. You see the swag, the aura that just unlocked in Damon's room, off room, guest room, wherever the hell he is, bedroom.
It's called a den, Kevin.
Some of us don't got 3 levels to the house. So a den, very sick.
Some of us don't have 2 roommates as well.
Well, I mean, if I did have a roommate, I'd be trying to get them to wear branded bills, because branded bills, they have the most comfortable headwear, snapbacks, tees, fitteds, beanies, truckers, any type of headwear or apparel that you could need. Branded bills has it for your favorite university or team. They have over, I think, 40 partnerships with different universities. U of A is one of them, arguably their best partnership. Check out that campus store in Tucson for hats like Damon's. You could also support the baseball team, softball team, football team, basketball team, all the sports at Arizona with our friends over at Branded Bills. So make sure to check it out. Code BBPHNX for 15% off your first order of the most comfortable way to elevate your brand. Branded Bills.
Branded Bills, we love our friends over there. You see me rocking it all the time. I know my guy Max was in the D-backs chat saying he knows Damon has a Branded Bills hat that he's rocking. Of course, brother. Always. But I'm always rocking my Shady Rays as well whenever I'm in my car driving to and from work. Maybe just running some errands. Guys, Shady Rays are premium polarized sunglasses for not a premium price. They have all kinds of styles to fit any sort of personality and just kind of style of clothing. And the best part about Shady Rays, and everybody already knows about this, but it's the lost and broken replacement policy. Kevin, I unfortunately did not bring my Shady Rays with me to Hawaii. I brought another off-brand pair of sunglasses, apparently. And I left them 5 minutes into my trip to Hawaii. I could have nullified that and just, hit up my friends at Shady Rays, said, hey guys, I lost my sunglasses, and they would send me a brand new pair. That's how easy it is to take advantage of their lost and broken replacement policy. I know I lose sunglasses all the time. Is that like maybe the number one thing I lose, and I feel like garbage every time I do it. Shady Rays, they completely take that process out of it. And they make it real simple to, buy premium sunglasses for not a premium price, like I said. So head on over to, shadyrays.com. They got promo code PHNX is going to get you 35% off their polarized sunglasses when you purchase them with our promo code, again, of PHNX. Try for yourself. The shade's rated 5 stars by over 300,000 people.
Welcome back, Justin Spears. And like Damon said, we do have our best bets as well for this one. Justin, me and Damon have been going head to head to start this college football season. We each pick out 3 of our best bets for the weekend, and we go head to head, like I was just saying.
Okay.
Damon, do you know the record off top of your head?
Kevin, I know that both of us, I have here a little, notes sheet that I filled out. Both of us in week 0 were 2-1. Both of us in week 1 were 2-1. So
wow.
You go into, we have had 4 for 4 winning weeks between the two of us. We are tied. I don't know the exact units up necessarily. I'll have to do the math on that. And I do plan on doing it. But as of right now, Kevin, me and you we're just picking winners against the spread. No big deal.
You know what to do. Listen to this podcast for all your best bets, and that's not financial advice. It's just life advice. You know what I mean? So let's get into it. And Justin, feel obliged if you have anything that you want to add into this segment. You very well are allowed to do that. This is my best bet and Damon's best bet for the week on the same graphic. I'm going with Arizona money line. I got it at plus 105. You can get it at minus 105 right now, I think, unfortunately, for some other people out there. But I did catch it when it was at plus odds briefly for like the hour that it was at plus odds yesterday. I felt very good about that. And yeah, I'm going to ride this one into the weekend, mostly because I just think, well, one, I'm a Wildcat. I'm probably a little bit biased. I'm an Arizona Wildcat, probably a little bit biased, but I really think that Arizona has a really good chance to win this game at home. And if I got them at plus odds like I did, I was going to take it. Quite to be candid with you, I would have taken my second best bet, which is Iowa State minus 21. Coming up on Saturday, they have Arkansas State on the road. I think Iowa State continues to roll. So my point being, if I couldn't get Arizona at plus odds, I would have went with the Iowa State spread as my best bet, and that would have been that. So my first and second best bets are Arizona money line at plus odds, Iowa State minus 21, and then I got OHIO, the Buckeyes. I think they're going to roll Ohio, and Parker Navarro. Shout out to Timothy Chalamet. You know what I mean? I don't know. Ohio State, they just beat a team by 70 last week, and you're going to tell me they can't beat Ohio by 29? I feel like they can do it. I know it is at, what do they call it, the Horseshoe in Ohio State. So, yeah, it's going to be rocking. It's going to be tough to play there for Parker Navarro and company. Even if Timothy Chalamet shows up for his best buddy, Parker Navarro, I still think Ohio State gets this one done. ATS against the spread. So those are my top 3 bets. Arizona money line, Iowa State spread, Ohio State spread, OHIO, roll clones, bear down. You know what I mean?
I love it, Kevin. I think, especially that Iowa State bet, I think you should have just done that as your best bet, because Arkansas State lost 56-14 to Arkansas. And I think Iowa State's a better program and football team than Arkansas is in 2025. Maybe I'm wrong there. But yeah, I like those trio of bets there. Justin, any thoughts?
Yeah, I like all of those bets. Let me get you guys back in the good graces of ASU fans, because I know you guys have been going at each other's throats for the last.
Who says we want to be there? Shout out to Bees, but like, who says we want to be in the good graces?
Man,
know?
let me help you guys out. Let me get ASU to beat Texas State -16.5, coming off that tough loss to Mississippi State. And my colleague Michael Lev, he made a good point. He's like, only ASU could one up Arizona with a disappointing loss to Mississippi State. Only ASU could one up Arizona in that category. But I think now that they're back home, -16.5, I think Kenny Dillingham and these guys, they're going to get right. And as I said on our podcast this week, Jordan McLeod ain't walking through that door, Texas State. So give me
Ismail Mahdi's not walking through that door.
Ismail Mahdi ain't walking through that door. Max Harris ain't walking through that door. So yeah, give me ASU to win and cover this week. That's my go-to bet if I'm a betting man.
I unfortunately, Justin, thought ASU was going to cover the spread versus NAU. Thought to myself very foolishly, number 11 team in the country versus a Big Sky opponent. Spreads 4 touchdowns. Like, you got to roll them. And of course, that game was fairly close, closer than ASU fans wanted it. Not that it was ever really in doubt of being a loss, but yeah, another bad game from them last week. I think the line from Vegas, the writing was almost on the wall. I was talking about it on the show with Kevin, like 6.5, a 2-win Mississippi State team last year. That was telling me that game was really going to be close and kind of go down to the wire. But also, I think that the Big 12 it maybe isn't just the best year for the Big 12 when it comes to football. I'm going to get into my bets here. And I, of course, have been doing a pretty good job, from going 4-2 as well. But Justin, I've done my lock of the week, my best bet of the week, 2 weeks in a row. It has been Oregon -27.5. And then I saw the line this week and I said to myself, run the damn football. Because if you're going to give me 27.5 again, I'm just going to take it. I'm going to keep taking it. 27.5 versus Montana State, 27.5 versus Oklahoma State, 27.5 versus Northwestern. At what point do we just say Oregon's a top 10 team in the country and the teams that they're playing are not very good at football? Because frankly, Montana State is a good Big Sky team. They're really good for FCS, but that's a different level of football that we're talking about here. Oklahoma State is garbage. And Northwestern lost by 20 points to Tulane. So I don't know, man. I'm sitting here and I'm like, I think Oregon rolls them. I think it's another Oregon blowout. I think that they capitalize on the momentum that they built, through the first 2 weeks last week. And I think that, this is another one of the easiest cashes of the weekend, as I've cashed on Oregon the last 2 weeks.
And as you say that, Damon, I believe in your bet so much that I almost put it in my top 3. But you've done this 27.5 thing for so many weeks in a row now that I didn't want to interfere with greatness. You know what I mean? I didn't want to hop on this and then it, be a 27-point victory, heaven forbid. And now all of a sudden it's my fault. And I can't even enjoy this great bit that is Oregon being team 27.5. You know what I mean? Every week. I love it. I couldn't love your best bet anymore if I tried. Oregon -27.5 feels incredible.
Yeah, it does, Kevin. And let's take this thing into overtime real quick on the AZ Wildcats pod. I know we don't have the overtime overlay specifically, but there it is for our guy Jacob Franklin. I agree. I just you can't just jump in on a good thing in the middle of it and expect it to continue. That's actually how you kill. Yeah, that's how you kill hot streaks in gambling, no doubt about it. My last two picks of the week here, just to kind of round it out. I'm going with the team that was the boogeyman for me last week, Kevin. I got UCLA minus 13.5 against New Mexico. New Mexico is a far cry from the team they were last year. I think UCLA needs a win like they need oxygen to breathe. They are. You can't start 0-3 against New Mexico. New Mexico, like they lost. They beat Idaho State by 10. Like, come on, Nico. What do you got for me, man? You're a Big Ten football team. You guys can win this game by 2 touchdowns. Hopefully it happens. I think that they owe me one, and then I'm just gonna keep continuing what's been working all day long, Kevin, and all season long, and that's Utah football.
Yep.
Well, I'm looking at Utah versus Wyoming at minus 23.
I was thinking about it.
What in God's name is that spread? Utah has rolled their first 2 opponents. Cal Poly is not a bad FCS school. They got absolutely mollywopped. They beat UCLA by 33. I mean, in what world are they not going to beat Wyoming by more than essentially 3 touchdowns? I just don't see that being the case. I think Utah, like I'm almost considering. I know I have to do it for the sake of the Oregon like hot streak we're on here, but I think Utah is like the lock of the week. What are we talking about with that spread?
What exactly was it again?
Minus 23.
Oh yeah. Utes are gonna roll.
What do we think?
That feels like the easiest money of the weekend. I don't know.
It does.
I don't really understand that at all, to be honest.
Josh Allen's not walking through that door. Wyoming.
No, he's not.
You know what I mean?
I mean, these guys beat Akron by 10.
Ugh.
By 10.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's gross. That might be the lock of the week, Damon. I can't lie to you. What do we think about LSU minus 7 at home against Florida? Anybody in the chat or Damon or Justin have any thoughts about that? I know I saw it get mentioned up there, I believe by Tyler Warden, who said LSU minus 7 at home over Florida, though.
Yep.
Florida just lost to a USF team that, is a lot of people's darlings right now, but I think the actual level of that team has yet to still be found. You know what I mean? The Fighting League. But yeah, what do we think about LSU minus 7? Garrett Nussmeier and the Tigers roll or no?
Go Tigers. Yeah.
Go
man.
Tigers.
Yeah, I think LSU is going to roll at home. I mean, they're a really good team. Garrett Nussmeier is one of the top quarterbacks, a guy that I think first round pick when it's all said and done. We'll see. But yeah, I think that Florida, I mean, they're really on eggshells right now. And Billy Napier is 20-20 overall there. I don't know what the standard is like at Florida, but the Gators that I know, the Gators that were committing a lot of crimes and winning national championships, their standard was way better than it is right now. So
the football standard for certain.
The football standard, yes. It's funny. All their crimes are happening on the field. They're spitting on people, and guys are getting ejected. But I just look at Billy Napier. I think he's a good dude, right? I think solid dude, but at a place like Florida,
good dude university.
That's Florida, man. Billy Napier, 20-20 overall, that doesn't get it done down there in the swamp. And so I look at that spot opening up, and you guys know exactly where I'm going to go with this. And I've said it on the radio show. It's going to get fishy down there in the swamp, baby. I think if Washington has a really good year this year, Jed makes that jump to UCLA, or excuse me, Florida, or maybe UCLA, because we don't know what's going to happen with Deshaun Foster. So I think it would honestly just be rich if after 2 years in Washington, Jed, saying that he's going to be there for a while. I remember, I'll never forget when he went onto the floor during a Washington basketball game and pretty much gave the whole LeBron, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4. and then he dips out after 2 years. Now, this is just me having some fun here, but I don't know. If Washington does well and Florida's got the money, Jed always wanted to coach his alma mater. And honestly, that's a program that Jed wouldn't leave at the collegiate level. I think the next step for him would be to go to the National Football League. But I'm just saying the spots that have Jed Fish written all over it, they're trending towards letting go of their coach, in my opinion. So we'll find out. But yes, LSU -7 at home. Going back to the original point, yes, give me the Tigers.
I first off, let me just say, I think I'm starting to get the feeling that LSU, especially with that Brian Kelly week 1 win, kind of snapping that streak and doing so against a good team in Clemson on the road, like I'm thinking the SEC's wide open, and I'm thinking that LSU might be my internal favorite. I know we're only 2 weeks through the season. I haven't been super impressed by Georgia. Alabama obviously lost to Florida State, who I think is better than probably people thought they were going to be going into the year. But I don't know. I think LSU has a real opportunity here to kind of take control of this conference. I like that -7 as well when it comes down to that bet. But Justin, is there any what are you thinking about the U of A side of things from a betting standpoint? And just let's hear your score prediction overall before we get you out of here.
Yeah, I would like to say that 1 to 30 wins this game, but I think it's going to be a grinder of a game. And, I don't think that Arizona is going to turn over the ball, but I think that Kansas State will stop them a lot of times on their side of the field and forcing the Wildcats to punt. So there's going to be some empty drives for Arizona in this upcoming game, I feel like. But then again, this is also the same Kansas State team that allowed Army to go 6 for 7 on 4th down. So if you're Arizona, if you can get more into those 3rd-and-1 situations, 4th-and-1 situations near midfield, and we've seen Arizona go for those 4th down plays, and they convert, then I think Arizona is going to be just fine. But they got to be able to convert on 3rd downs. They got to keep that offense on the field. They got to keep their defense fresh. And I also think that, if they can figure out a way to get up by 2 possessions on Kansas State early, if they can punch them in the face early, and get some points on the board and then force Avery Johnson to really use his arm, right, and completely eliminate his legs. I think that's the move for the Wildcats. But I say 1 to 30 wins, but I don't think it's going to I don't think either team's going to get to 30 points. I think it's going to be in comparison to the other games. I think it's going to be a low scoring affair. Give me Arizona 28, Kansas State 24.
Yeah, I think that you're right about that. Like that, a game that is kind of drag it out almost plays into Kansas State's hands. They do not have a dynamic enough offense right now to come back from a multi-possession deficit, in my opinion. So I do agree with you. I think if Arizona can get out to a fast start, like that would go a long way in terms of potentially kind of sealing this one up early. But if it's 28-24 and it's closer than that, I'm all for that too, man. Just get the W. Kevin and I will obviously have our official score predictions tomorrow. But Kevin, any thoughts on Justin's prediction there?
I think you can see
he's got the gears.
He's got the gears turning like crazy. They obviously need some WD-40. No Friaz. Shout out to Max, but like the gears are turning. And tomorrow's score prediction, I don't know. It might be lower than I thought. Per Justin's conversation there, and I'll just say where I'm thinking like. I was thinking this is kind of like an Arizona, like 34, K-State 24 kind of game. But now that Justin's put his explanation out there, it does have me thinking otherwise. I still think Arizona wins, but I might be a lot closer to like, I don't know, Arizona, like, 27, K-State, like 17 or something like that. I think that both teams get to 20. I know I just said K-State 17. Official score prediction is still coming. But like, I do think that maybe this game's a little lower scoring than I'm giving it credit for, at least on one side of thing. I really do think that one of these teams, I assume I did bet money that it's going to be Arizona. But I think one of these teams looks really fun on offense tomorrow. And I think one of them ends up looking a little bit lackluster, and it might be the reason why they lose the game. So I think it might be a little lower scoring than I came into this podcast thinking.
Justin, last thing before we get you out of here. I just wanted to ask you, couple of big storylines in terms of transfers in tomorrow's game, and who better to speak about kind of the relationship and the vibes around both programs in terms of Trey Spivey transferring from Kansas State to Arizona and the comments that he made when he spoke to media, as well as Gunnar Maldonado, leaving Arizona, becoming the rare triple Wildcat, and making his return to Tucson for the first time in his home state since he transferred away. In lieu of potentially losing some playing time to Genesis Smith, as you asked Danny Gonzalez a couple of days ago, Justin. So what's kind of just the kind of feeling around these two players playing against their former teams?
Well, Gunnar will always go down as an Arizona football legend. And I think, I can speak on the behalf of a lot of people who follow U of A football. No one is pissed at Gunnar Maldonado for leaving to go to Kansas State. And when you look at it like this, he's coming off of a season-ending knee injury, and he's going into his final year of playing college football. And then on top of that, you have this rising star in Genesis Smith who plays the exact same position as him. And so all these factors, I think, led to Gunnar Maldonado going and finding that next opportunity and finding whatever school is going to pay him the most amount of money and also give him some playing time as well. And Kansas State, I'm sure, is, taking care of our guy Gunnar. So, I just think that it was a win-win for everybody. It was a good way for Gunnar Maldonado to get a fresh start. And it was also really kind of like the passing of the torch moment with Genesis Smith, who in my opinion is Arizona's best defensive back. But Gunnar has not been really available this year. He's got 4 tackles. He's played in every game this year, but has been more of like a limited type of player. Maybe we see more because Kansas State's safeties have really struggled this year. And I know VJ Payne is a pretty solid guy, but maybe they put Gunnar Maldonado next to VJ Payne in the secondary. So pay attention to maybe some more snaps for Gunnar Maldonado this week. But like I said, man, Arizona football legend. I mean, the dude, he doesn't have the greatest defensive play in program history. That honor belongs to his former safeties coach and Chuck Cecil with the pick 6 against ASU. You'd be hard pressed to find another play better than that one. But if we're talking about like Arizona football lore and like the most important plays in program history, Gunnar Maldonado has a top 5 play, in my opinion. That 87-yard fumble return for a touchdown against Oklahoma that completely changed the complexion of the game because Arizona, they were dead in the water. They were about to lose that game. And then Gunnar Maldonado comes up with this crazy play, and then it sparks the comeback for Arizona, and then Arizona just delivers that knockout punch in the fourth quarter. So Gunnar Maldonado will always be an Arizona legend. And it's funny how, he became the Alamo Bowl defensive MVP when earlier in that year, Arizona fans wanted him benched because he was like getting kind of picked on a little bit and really struggled. And Arizona fans wanted this guy out of the secondary, but the coaches stuck with him. And then they turned him into this really solid defensive back and a guy who had a great play in that Alamo Bowl. So Gunnar Maldonado, tip of the cap to you. Great career at Arizona. Hopefully he does some good things later on with Kansas State. But as far as Trey Spivey goes, Trey, by the way, shout out to Tucson Sidewinder legend Junior Spivey, who's his dad, also played for the Arizona Diamondbacks as well as a part of that 2001 World Series team. But Trey was one of the additions that they got to be one of the T-Mac successors, the big body wide receiver that can go up and make a bunch of plays. But he was known as the possession guy, the guy that could just go up and make some pretty insane catches. But he worked on his speed and worked on his acceleration and his ability to get open from defensive backs. And developing that chemistry with Noah took a little bit of time. And, he was kind of slow getting implemented into the offense. But I think so far you've seen Trey Spivey. He caught his first touchdown as an Arizona Wildcat last week against Weber State and had that awesome catch and triple coverage in the season opener against Hawaii. So you're starting to see Trey Spivey stack good reps and stack good games. And I think when it's all said and done, he's going to be one of Arizona's top receivers this year. And he's got many years left of eligibility. So like Trey Spivey's just getting started here at Arizona, and he's a great player. As far as impact Saturday night, if I'm a betting man, if I'm going to say, which one of the two is going to have a better game or more impactful game, I'll probably lean more towards a guy like Trey Spivey, but both players are awesome. Both are from the Phoenix area. Trey Spivey played at Hamilton. Gunnar Maldonado played at Chandler. So it's a really cool
because
connection
why?
there.
Phoenix is what? Wildcat country. Thank you.
Damn straight. Also, a cool connection here before I get out of here, guys. So Matt Wells, the offensive coordinator for Kansas State, he coached at New Mexico with Danny Gonzalez. And when Matt Wells left New Mexico, Danny went over to his house and redid the entire flooring of his home. And so I'm like, hey, Danny, I got a hole in my ceiling, man. You want to come fix that since you're Tim the Toolman Taylor? Do you guys know who Tim the Toolman Taylor is? Oh, thank you, Kevin. You got to have more power. Damon, do you know who Tim the Toolman Taylor is?
I do not.
From Home
I do not.
Improvement. It used to come on either before or after the George Lopez show, I think.
Wait, Home Improvement? Oh, sorry. I just didn't know. I'm the
like
Tim Allen show.
Yes.
Hey, neighbor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah, I know the neighbor. I know. I'm aware. I'm not a connoisseur, but I'm aware.
Okay.
Sorry.
You're aware of Wilson, where his eyes are barely above the fence. Okay. I thought we were gonna have to erase the whiteboard and put 0 days where Damon makes Justin feel like an unk. But yeah, Danny Gonzalez went over and redid this guy's entire flooring of his house, and then on top of that, Seth Dagey, Arizona's offensive coordinator, when he was the quarterback at Texas Tech, his first ever touchdown with the Red Raiders was against Kansas State. His first rushing touchdown at Texas Tech was also against Kansas State. But his first pick six was also against Kansas State as well. So there's always some sort of connection. These teams are bonded through multiple guys, and it's going to be a fun one Friday night. I can't wait.
We are excited in our own right to cover this game tomorrow, to do our pregame show 30 minutes prior to the opening kickoff. I believe that'll be at 5:30, right, Kevin? Tomorrow night will be our pregame show at 5:30. Then we'll be going live 10 to 15 minutes after the clock hits 0. But Justin Spears is going to have you covered with the premier coverage, boots on the ground out there in Tucson at Arizona Stadium. You can, of course, follow him at Justin E Sports. Find him on Spears and Ali every weekday morning from 7 to 9 a.m. unless his ceiling collapses in his bathroom. And then perhaps that won't be the case. And of course, on Tucson.com for the Arizona Daily Star. Justin, we appreciate you taking the time and rocking with us for an extra long episode today on a football Thursday.
Glad to be here, guys. The reason why my ceiling collapsed is because I had a leak, and I kid you not, the freaking red line. It's Arizona football's mantra, and it's the reason why I am dealing with house problems right now. I can't escape it, man. Red line everywhere.
Everywhere you go, you're gonna have to bring that up to Coach Danny Gonzalez and Seth Dagey and Brent Brennan, and just be like, I thought the red line was supposed to be a good thing, man.
I know. What the hell, man?
Can I get red line insurance on my home coach?
I know, right? But I appreciate it. Hey, thank you guys. See you guys.
Yeah, thank you, Justin. Thank you so much, as always, my man. Justin, great as always. Just providing the best insight in the business. Kevin, we appreciate everybody so much for being here today on a Thursday. It's been a little bit of a tough time. I'm sure everybody's seen the news, but it's just been it's been rough. Kevin and I are just gonna chug along, just keep swimming, as Dory said very poetically in Finding Nemo.
Fact.
Yeah.
Sorry, Pat.
True. Forgot about that.
I'm gonna keep doggy paddling is what I'm gonna
do. Proverbially, we're just gonna keep on swimming, Kevin. And tomorrow night, that will come in the form of our pregame and postgame show for Arizona versus Kansas State. It's a big one, and we hope that all of you guys are there to celebrate in the W with us. Drop those fish emojis in the chat. Goes a long way. Appreciate you as well, Kevin, for being here. Drop those likes, run those up. You can follow my guy Kevin at KevoPost. That's KEVOPOSDS. You can follow me at Damon Dog. That's DAWG. And you can, of course, follow us at PHNX_Wildcats. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and be back for tomorrow's episode. Appreciate everybody for being here again, and we'll catch you later on a PHN or on an AZ Wildcats pod. Let's get this W. Peace out. Bear down.
And go Cats. I appreciate everyone. An hour a day of sports keeps the doctor away is what I hear. So take care of yourselves. Go Cats.
We all silly like the mayor.